Hey everybody, Ben the Bondsman here. This is my 19th time trying to make this video. This video is about bail reform. It's a subject that affects me directly. I'm very passionate about it, and I have some opinions about it that some of you may not expect. I don't know if you're aware of bail reform and what's going on with it, but you see it on the news from time to time. It's popped up on my Facebook feed, on my Google alerts, on different court cases going on with it. What bail reform basically is it's the ACLU going around the country suing different courts and law enforcement agencies saying that they have unfair arrest and release practices. So what these agencies are having to do is they're arresting people for misdemeanor nonviolent crimes like possession of marijuana, disorderly conduct, disturbing the peace, things like that. And instead of making them bond out of jail, they're ORing them. They're letting them go on their own recognizance. I can never say that word right. So they're signing a piece of paper saying, I promise I'll show up in court, and then letting them go home. So what that's doing is it's causing a huge bottleneck in the court system, because you have all of these misdemeanor crimes that are not appearing in court. They're not showing up, they're not taking it seriously, or they just flat out don't care. So the judges are getting frustrated, and people that are showing up for court are kind of suffering for that, because you got frustrated judges, frustrated court clerks, frustrated law enforcement officers, and I feel like people are paying for people that are doing the right thing, or paying for the people that aren't doing the right thing. So failure to appears have increased dramatically in my area, because these lawsuits have affected us locally also. And there are even some law enforcement agencies and courts that are letting people OR on felony bonds, and that's causing a problem in the felony system. I don't understand why they're ORing people on felony bonds, but I do understand the misdemeanor bonds, misdemeanor nonviolent offenses. They don't want to send people to sit in jail, but the problem that it creates is when you don't have somebody bond out of jail. And there's several different ways to bond out of jail. You don't have to necessarily go through a bondsman. Now, being an entrepreneur, I'd love it if they went through me, but you can do property bonds, you can do cash bonds, you can do surety bonds, which is what I do. You don't necessarily have to go through a bail bondsman. But when you have people that are just being released to go home without being out on bond, there's no accountability. The bail bonding system has been around for hundreds of years, thousands of years. It works. When you have somebody that's over here that takes responsibility for this guy that is supposed to show up for court, then we have a vested interest in making sure that he shows up for court, he or she. We have a financial interest in making sure that person shows up for court. We're not just going to say, oh, we're not worried about it because the charge is this. As a bondsman, we don't care what you're charged with. We don't care how much the bond is. We don't want to pay that bond off, so we're going to make sure your butt gets back in front of that judge. Well, what they're doing now by ORing everybody is somebody gets arrested, let's just say possession of marijuana, and they get taken down to the PD, they get processed in and processed back out, they get released on their own, they don't show up for court, the court issues a bench warrant for their arrest for failure to appear, and no, that's it. They may or may not get picked up at a traffic stop in a couple of days, weeks, months, or years. They may or may not get locked up on another charge. That person may never ever see that court again. So you have somebody that comes in from out of town, where we have casinos in our area. They come in from out of town, they get arrested for a misdemeanor charge, and they go back to where they're from, and they never come back here. Well, that law enforcement officer, the court system, and everybody in between just wasted all their time. Now, am I saying things shouldn't be illegal? Of course things should be illegal. Our legal system is here to make sure we stay in a peaceful society. I believe in it. I'm passionate about it. I'm pro law enforcement. But if you're saying that this person doesn't need to bond out on this charge, then don't arrest them for it. Write them a ticket. If you're going to write them a ticket, don't put them in jail for not paying the ticket. Go after them civilly. Levy their taxes. Garnish their wages. Do things civilly. But to arrest somebody for a charge that you're not going to jail them on, just to turn around and jail them for not paying the fine, that's extortion in my opinion. I don't believe in it. Or get rid of the laws that we're talking about here. Get rid of the disorderly conduct, disturbing the peace, possession of marijuana. Just stop arresting people for it. And then the things that you do arrest people for, make them bond out. If it's worth an arrest, it's worth a bond. If it's not worth an arrest, then it's not worth charging them. Things like speeding tickets, DUI, running red lights, those are all public safety matters. Absolutely, write them a ticket. But if they don't pay their ticket, DUI, you should arrest them for that, by the way. But the other things, speeding, running red light stuff, public safety matters, write them a ticket. But if they don't pay their fine, suspend their driver's license. Well, you already do, but suspend their driver's license. Levy their taxes, garnish their wages, do things like that. Don't put people in jail because they don't pay their fines. Bondsmen aren't allowed to put people in jail because we don't get paid. If we bond somebody out on, say, a $100,000 bond, and they're making payments to us because they didn't have the whole $10,000 when we got them out, it better not get found out that we put them back in jail for not paying their payment. That's a big no-no. We'll lose our license for that. I think the court should have to abide by the same standard. They hold us to that standard, they should abide by the same standard. That's where your bail reform comes in. It's a system reform. Stop locking people up for these crimes just to turn around and bog the court system up with a bunch of bullcrap for things that people aren't going to show up for court for, and then being harsh on the people that do show up for court. That's my opinion. If you don't like it, I don't really care. But that's where I stand on this whole bail reform crap. That's all for now. Ben the Bondsman, signing out.